Hey YouTube, I wanted to make a video about a tool that I made here to go on to the sawmill. I have the head pushed down to that other end. The other day we were at Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, or I guess it's Coudersport. There's a lumber museum on Route 6. Really nice. Talks about the history of the area. They have a bunch of different displays of the old-time way of cutting lumber, and they had a demonstration there of how they cut shingles and stuff like that. So I figured that when I build my thing here, I'm going to raise up, posts and put it around the head of the saw in this area. I figured I may as well make it all completely out of stuff that I've cut from the sawmill. So I'm going to make the shingles out of wood as well. So I was trying to figure out how to make a jig for that. And what I did was, I came up with this idea, and it seems to work pretty good. I had to tweak it a little bit because at first I had a problem holding the wood, which now is not a problem. And then I had a problem with it not cutting the right angle exactly. Now I'll show you what I mean by that. Here I have some shingles here, and if you look sort of closely, you can see that this one's fairly thick. This one's about what I really want. This one's a little thick, but it cut a full shingle, a full 18 inches. So I had to raise both ends of the board so that when you balance it back and forth, in other words, you turn it one way and then turn it the other, it was cutting too much of an angle, and it was coming out of the wood somewhere about right here. So in other words, if I was cutting 3/4 here, I was coming out of the wood about right here, which I didn't want. I wanted to come out of the wood at least within a 1/2 inch of this. I would be happy with that. So I did a little bit of tweaking, and the way that I did that, let me just take this board out of here. What I did was this. From this point here to this point here is exactly 18 inches, okay? But I have this piece here beveled out slightly on the top. I don't know if you can see it there, so that when you put the 18 inches in, it's tight. So originally I didn't have these bolts down here, okay, 4 bolts. I didn't have them there, and I was just rocking over top of this 3/8 inch bolt that I put here. It's a threaded rod. Now in theory, 3/8 of an inch in the center of 18 inches, when you put one end down, the other end should be 3/4 of an inch high, which is what I was looking for. But that didn't quite work right because of the thickness of the saw blade. So what I did then was I drilled and tapped 4 corners, okay, and I put the nuts in. It got better, or I mean the bolts, it got better, but it wasn't quite right. So then I went and I put washers underneath there and found out that I can adjust. Now you have to adjust them all the same distance, especially if you make it nice and flat, which this is. So you can adjust these to make so that when you cut through with your level cut, that you're cutting 3/4 of an inch on this end and you're just coming out of the wood at the other end. Or you could make it so that you just have like 1/8 of an inch over here and 3/4 on that side. But either way, for what I'm building, it's not like I'm building a house. I'm only building a little shed right in the area here where I had talked previously. So anyway, that worked good. The part about holding the jig in place, Woodmizer has these little stops here so that once you cut a square piece of lumber, you can actually butt against that, put the dogs down, and then you don't have to worry about hitting that with the blade. Now I do have to worry about hitting this with the blade because it's not, that low. However, you can make some pretty tall cants with some lumber. It depends on the size of the log. But it has to be 8 by 8 by 18. That's what I need for shingles. And then what I was going to say is this piece here, because it rests against the stops on both sides, and I have it very tight, like that's how tight it is. I'm pulling pretty hard to get it out of there. So that doesn't come off the bed or anything. And the saw blade is coming in this direction. So it was having a problem tilting. I actually tilted the board up and then it was cutting crooked. So after I had that problem, I figured, okay, what can I do with this thing? So I put the board in, and what you do is you press down on one side. Like for instance this side, if you press on one side it pulls it up or down. Now this piece of wood I chose isn't exactly flat. So I can't get it in here a little better. Here, there we go. So it's down now, so you tighten all three of these set screws and that'll hold that there. Then after you make your cut, then you push it the opposite direction, tighten 3 set screws and make another cut. So you're rocking back and forth on that. Now I feel that this is going to work pretty good. It may need a little bit more tweaking, but I figured I'd just show you what I had there. And if it does work pretty well, I actually can put them across. You know, I could put one next to this or down here or whatever to cut a bunch of shingles. But, you know, I don't mind cutting one at a time just for this little roof. I haven't figured out how many it's going to take. They're 8 inches wide, so you can sort of do the math. But basically this is what it's going to look like, where you actually have 3 rows of shingles as a starter. Some guys use 2, and then you put, you know, the shingles one on top. For instance, one would be there, then the next one would be next to that, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through a shingle school here, but you know, that's how you'd put them on there. And I think that this size shingle is a good size to work with. Like I say, this thing is going to be 8 foot from here back, so I got to figure, you know, 8 foot with the 8-inch shingle, and then how far it is up the gable to the peak to see how many shingles I'll need. And then plus the way you put the boards on and all. And I'll make videos of this as I go. I just want to try and perfect this thing. And to me right now it seems to be pretty good. I did, like I say, when I first started cutting this, the blade, instead of going in, you know, nice and level, it sort of pulled because the log there pulled up in the air and screwed me up. So I had to take that back. It didn't hurt the blade though. The blade didn't twist enough to hit anything to dull it. So I put it back through. I cut another log after that and the blade cut fine. But I just figured I'd show you this. Simple thing. The angle iron is basically 26 inches long. A couple side braces. Let me take this wood out of here and you can look at it a little better. Boy, when I was a kid I used to be a lot stronger than I am now. But anyway, so there's 2 angle irons, from here down, from here down. And you know, you can, there's welders out there and guys with better ideas than I have. I wanted to get something quick. Put a little brace across here, an angle iron over and down to hang on to the side of the rail for the bunk. Put the bolt I did put right in the center. I made sure it was in the center so that when it tilts back and forth it's an even tilt. And other than that, it seems to be working good. Like I say, I took these 1/4-inch bolts, I tapped this. I might end up welding nuts on here, but for right now it seems to be pretty good. You don't have to make them real tight. You know, it's not like it's crazy tight, but you got to make it tight enough. And really, once the bottom of the board is in there, you're only making, you know, like 2 holes. Just to give you an example, like you're making a hole here and a hole there on one side, here, and then in another spot on another side. And then on the opposite sides I only have 1 screw just to push the get a little cant over to this side direction to make it tight. But that's how I made that. It is resting down on the bunk with those angle irons that you can see there. They're not real heavy. I'd say this is probably 3/16 there. 3/16 angles for the side rails. It's probably, oh, that's 2-inch, I would say. 2x2 angle. Probably bed angle would even work for something this short if you could dig some of that up. So like I say, I did cut these pieces. I wasn't totally happy with the way they were going, but towards the end it was coming out a lot nicer. Like you can see on this one. Now it's crooked because I just grabbed whatever scrap I had, but I'd make them straight next time. But you can see that I do have a nice cut there. Now that end seems a little thick. I didn't quite like that. That's about 1 inch thick. But as I went, like this one here now, this is more like 3/4 thick here. But I'm down to nothing out there. But it's not bad as long as you got, you know, close to the 18 inches. But I want a little longer than that. I would like to have a really nice edge here rather than this, you know, scraggly looking edge. But it's a start. I'm getting there. And I just wanted to show you guys who are, you know, like me, trying to do stuff on your own without kissing the Lowe's rear end or anybody else's that wants your money. So hey, I got nothing else to do all day except for my chores. Of course, my wife would slap me if she heard me say that. But the point is I just want to be able to make this whole thing from the sawmill. And if I can do that, I'll be happy. The hard part seems to be cutting an 8x8 cant straight. I don't know why, but I guess it must be the way I'm holding the saw, but my chainsaw seems to just come off the line ever so slowly. I don't even know if I could cut it with my miter saw. I have a 12-inch miter saw blade. Maybe I could make 2 cuts and cut them with that. But for now, like I say, it's nice. This is maple that I have that I was practicing with. Maple doesn't seem to make a good shingle, but I was reading that white oak in this area, because we don't have cedar that I know of, but white oak makes a nice shingle, and so does white pine. So I'm going to try that. So I guess I'll probably sandblast this thing after I'm done seeing what's what with it, and then I'll spray it so it doesn't get rusty and paint it. And then I'll just keep it out here underneath the shed when I get it built. So yeah, that's where I'm at so far. So guys, I hope you like this video. I'm trying to make them interesting. I'm not a great cameraman, I know that. I'm not really caring about that. I just want to share some of the things that I do, because I do a lot of different things, and you know, some people like that. As far as the update on the saw, on the kiln, let's see, it's about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I got 80 degrees in there and about 60% relative humidity, which is a little bit high. You can see there's a mist forming in there. But that's keeping these boards from splitting, you know, so this will be good. It's a slow drying process. Now when it's really hot out, the temperature can go to 120 degrees in there easily, and the relative humidity drops down to about 20 or 30. So that's at 30 something is actually perfect for this. But it's doing good. I looked at it, doesn't seem to be splitting. It's turning a nice reddish color. I don't know if you can see the variations in shades. I know you really can't see that in there, and I'm not picking this up right now, but anyway, that's where I'm at. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one, guys. Bye.